All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about making decisions. But more than that, we're talking about that feeling. You know the one. That deep, paralyzing fear that you're about to make the wrong choice and you're going to regret it forever. It's a feeling that can stop us right in our tracks.
I mean, seriously, who hasn't been there? Trying to pick a career path, deciding where to live, what to study. It seems like the bigger the choice, the louder that little voice in your head gets, screaming, "What if you totally mess this up?" I promise you, this isn't just you. It's a fundamental part of being human.
And this visual just nails that internal conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you're reaching for that amazing outcome, the trophy. But at the same time, you're being dragged back by this massive, heavy weight, that desperate need to avoid making a mistake. It's this exact tug of war that leaves us completely frozen.
Now, there's actually some fascinating psychology behind why this happens. It's a concept called loss aversion. Groundbreaking research showed that for our brains, the pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. Think about it. Losing $50 feels way, way worse than the joy of finding $50 feels good. And that powerful built-in bias is exactly why the fear of regret has such an iron grip on us.
So, this fear of loss, it leads us to some pretty interesting behaviors. And that brings us to a really common decision-making style that, ironically, often leads to way more regret. We're going to call it the maximizer's curse.
So researchers have found there are basically two types of decision makers. First, you got your maximizers. You can see them here, stuck in this maze. They have to explore every single possible path just to be absolutely certain they've picked the single best one. And then you have the satisficers. They've just got a simple checklist. The moment they find an option that ticks the boxes and is good enough, boom, they walk right through that door and get on with their lives.
Now you'd think all that extra work maximizers do has to pay off, right? Well, kinda. A really interesting study on college grads looking for jobs found that the maximizers did land jobs with starting salaries that were on average $7,500 higher. But here's the kicker. They were consistently less satisfied with those higher-paying jobs. And this quote right here tells you exactly why. The more options a maximizer looks at, the more doors they know they've closed. They end up being haunted by the ghosts of what might have been. So the key takeaway is this. Their endless, exhausting search for perfection actually manufactures the very regret they were trying so desperately to avoid in the first place.
Okay, so trying to be perfect can backfire and create regret. But what if the very thing we're so scared of, that future regret, isn't even what we imagine it to be? This brings us to a whole other layer of the problem, our own ridiculously faulty crystal ball.
There's a technical name for this. It's called effective forecasting. But really, it's just a fancy way of saying guessing how you'll feel in the future. And let me tell you, the research on this is crystal clear. We are absolutely terrible at it. We consistently think bad events will make us feel worse for longer than they actually do.
If you want a really powerful, kind of mind-blowing example of this, look no further than what's called the disability paradox. Study after study has shown that healthy people consistently and dramatically underestimate the quality of life of people living with a serious disability or illness, compared to what those people actually report their quality of life to be. Our predictions are just way, way off. So why are we so bad at this? Well, it boils down to three main glitches in our thinking. First, there's focalism. We zoom in on the one thing that's changing and totally forget about all the other parts of our life that will stay the same and continue to bring us happiness. Second, we have immune neglect. We completely forget about our own psychological immune system, that incredible built-in superpower we all have to cope, to recover, and to find happiness in new situations. And finally, adaptation. We just can't seem to predict how our own values and what we care about will change and adapt over time. And believe me, this isn't just academic. It can have literal life or death consequences. Take the true story of a police officer, Mr. Wishaw. He needed a life-saving amputation, but refused it. Why? Because he was a victim of focalism. All he could picture was what he would lose, like not being able to run around with his grandkids. He was completely unable to forecast his own ability to adapt and find new, equally meaningful ways to be happy. Okay, so this sounds pretty bleak, right? We're hardwired to fear loss, we set ourselves up for failure, and our predictions about the future are terrible. But what if I told you there's a powerful mental tool that can flip this entire script on its head? It's called inversion.
Here's the core idea, and it's so simple but so profound. Instead of pouring all our energy into asking, how can I achieve success, inversion tells us to ask the opposite question. What are all the things that could cause me to fail, and how can I actively prevent them? You see, avoiding stupidity is often a much more reliable path to a good outcome than chasing brilliance.
And you know what's wild? This is not some new productivity hack. The ancient Stoic philosophers were masters of this. They had a name for it, premeditatio malorum, which basically means the premeditation of evils. As the philosopher Seneca wrote, by thinking ahead about what could go wrong, they were never surprised. They were always prepared. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and the modern business world has stolen this exact Stoic idea and given it a cool new name, the pre-mortem. Before a big project launches, the team gets in a room and imagines it's a year from now and the whole thing has been a spectacular failure. Then, they work backward to list all the reasons why it failed. It's an unbelievably effective way to find the weak spots in a plan before they become a reality.
So how do we take all these big ideas from being a satisficer to using inversion and actually apply them in our own lives? Well, that brings us to our final section, your very own regret minimization toolkit. The ultimate goal we're aiming for is a strategy called robust satisficing. Now, this isn't just about settling for good enough. It's smarter than that. It's about choosing the option that you're confident will still be good enough even if a bunch of things go wrong. It's like building a safety net right into your decision from the very beginning. And here's a fantastic, super practical tool you can start using today to do just that. It's called the 10-10-10 rule. When you're stuck on a tough choice, just stop and ask yourself 3 quick questions. 1. How will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes? 2. How will I feel about it in 10 months? And 3. How will I feel about it in 10 years? This simple little trick forces you to do some mental time travel, pulling you out of your short-term emotions and giving you some much-needed long-term perspective. And that brings us to the final, most important idea. When researchers study regret, they find one thing over and over again. In the long run, people almost never regret the things they did. They regret the things they didn't do, the chances they didn't take, the words they didn't say. So as you go forward, thinking backwards with these tools, just ask yourself this one question. In 10 years, what will you truly regret more? The risk you took or the one you didn't?